ladies and gentlemen, it is a distinct honor and privilege for me to stand here in front of this august gathering to talk about one of the most critical issues that affects our lives and that has a heavy influence on our future as the human race. This is a subject that has become very close to my heart in the last decade, since my appointment as the African Union Champion on Nutrition, and subsequently the FAO Goodwill Ambassador on Nutrition. I would therefore like to convey my sincerest gratitude to the Governing Council and the President of IFAD for extending me an invitation to participate in this important event and share my thoughts on how we can combat the existential threat of malnutrition, hunger, and poverty. Ladies and gentlemen, we are meeting at a time when the world is facing an alarming situation where about 22% of the world's children are stunted, and almost 30% of the world's population suffers from one or more micronutrient deficiencies as a result of the lack of access to foods that sustain healthy growth and development. Malnutrition levels across Africa remain unacceptably high, with 13.7% of infants having a low birth weight, and 30.7% of children under 5 years of age suffering from stunting. As Africans, we know, and we have seen, and we are seeing that our continent is disproportionately affected by the scourge of climate change. The impacts of climate change, such as droughts, floods, land degradation, and the loss of biodiversity, are deeply intertwined with the continent's agro-food systems and the multiple challenges around food and nutrition security. As the threat of climate change becomes more evident, it is imperative that African countries tackle climate and nutrition in interlinked ways, with a clear strategy to mitigate the impacts of climate change on healthy diets. Malnutrition in all forms imposes very high social and economic costs on our countries, developing or developed. It represents a long-term drain on socio-economic development, with African economies losing between 1.9% and 16.5% of their annual GDP to child undernutrition. Furthermore, malnutrition hinders healthy development of children due to stunted growth, wasting, micronutrient deficiencies, and sadly, it is one of the biggest contributors to global child mortality, accounting to about 45% of deaths among children under 5 years of age. Ladies and gentlemen, this situation cannot be allowed to continue. We need collectively to promote and implement integrated action and complementary interventions that are supported by a strong political will to drive an increase in the share of the national budgets allocated for nutrition. We also need gender-sensitive investments in nutrition. Investments that will protect the interests of our youth, indigenous people, people with disabilities, and investments that are economically, socially, culturally, and environmentally sustainable. The overarching purpose of these investments should be to break the intergenerational cycle of poverty and malnutrition, and to find long-lasting solutions that will help us create sustainable food systems that can deliver healthy diets. Excellencies, honored guests, the Kingdom of Lesotho has placed nutrition as a key national priority, and we remain committed to the goal of reducing or even eliminating all forms of malnutrition, especially child undernutrition. Even though our country has enjoyed some moderate economic growth in recent years, we are still struggling to address food insecurity, poverty, and malnutrition. Lesotho's economy relies heavily on agriculture, which is the main source of income for a majority of the rural population. The nation's agri-food systems are now heavily affected by climate change. Prolonged droughts, which are often accompanied by unusually high temperatures, and flash floods, are compromising the availability, accessibility, affordability, and consumption of diverse and nutritious diets. In order to confront these challenges head-on, the government of Lesotho has pledged to accelerate efforts to address malnutrition, particularly child malnutrition, and in so doing, achieve the Sustainable Development Goal 2.2. In this regard, the government has undertaken key steps to build an enabling environment for better nutrition outcomes through strategic and multi-sectoral frameworks and programs that will allow different stakeholders to contribute and play a role in the increase of our food and nutrition security. The government of Lesotho, in tackling these challenges, including these challenges of climate change, has had the good fortune of working with committed development partners such as IFAD, the World Bank, FAO, and many others. The support we have received from these partnerships has enabled us to institute various climate adaptation and mitigation measures, such as restoring degraded lands and enhancing the protection of our biodiversity. I would like to believe that all these efforts are contributing to tangible improvements in livelihoods, food and nutrition security, and the general well-being of our rural communities. Ladies and gentlemen, I cannot emphasize enough the importance of promoting and implementing sustainable, nutrition-sensitive, climate-smart agri-food system policies, programs, and investment plans that can catalyze actions to prioritize nutrition across the entire agri-food system. I am convinced, and I have no doubt that you are also convinced, that a robust and resilient agri-food system can help improve the availability, accessibility, and affordability of safe and nutritious food, and foster healthy and sustainable diets. I am of the firm view, therefore, that nutrition should be an explicit part of our development policies and should be integrated in food and agriculture-related programs and investments. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, as the African Union champion on nutrition, I am deeply committed to advocating for food and nutrition security as a fundamental pillar of sustainable development. I will continue to call for the building of strong partnerships between all stakeholders, partnerships which will accelerate the transformation of our agri-food systems in sustainable, inclusive, and resilient ways, while ensuring the delivery of healthy and affordable diets for all. I thank you for your attention.